Back, are you? I hope that's because you believe I was telling the truth, as I know it, not just to watch some random schmuck have a mental breakdown. Either way, though, I guess I'm glad to have you here. Who knows how my story makes it to the right ears? I had my meeting and it went better than expected, but I'll get to that a little bit later. For the moment, I'd like to give you a little more context and background. Maybe shake a memory of yours loose. Maybe mention something you've heard before. Last time we talked about the characters, and looking back, maybe I was overly brief. I want to give all of you as specific of a view of the Plae Place as I can. They were kind of rare from what I remember. Some would stay for a while others would appear for an hour or two every few weeks. But by and large, most of our time was spent away from those things. Popeye himself was one of the most memorable for his extended stay. I remember trying to talk to him a couple times, and while I can't say the same for other characters, he had no reply, just that eyeless stare, bulging, almost melted looking skin, and forearms that looked like they were smuggling bowling balls. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that the people running the place used the fictional character explanation for the most off putting of the things, places, and creatures. They used to tell us how special we were, being some of the only kids allowed to know the real things and people all our favorite media was based on. God, it seems so stupid now, but it's the type of weird shit a kid just accepts because them adults know everything. No one liked the things, even the ones that did talk never said anything pleasant. They were always really interested in us, but even as a kid, you knew it wasn't in any kind of wholesome way. The place where there were the most of them was called Sherwood Forest. It was a huge, tilted room, bigger than most warehouses. Trees, real and fake, came up from the ground, stopping just shy of the yellowing, stained glass ceiling. The things there didn't change much. The adults didn't really have specific names for each of them. They just called them the Merry Men. Never understood the name. Each of them looked somewhat like an animal you'd recognize, but out of proportion, scabbed and reeking. They were all bipedal, but not in the cute Disney way. Their features were twisted, but not in any way that made them seem human, or like they should be as smart as they were. They always had questions. I don't even remember them torturing anyone. But looking up at one of those things as a child, even without any overt threat, you are going to tell them what they want to know. I can't remember all the questions, but I do remember them being all over the place. Our knowledge of war, family history, and dreams were topics I remember well, though. Even they knew, though. If you smelled burning popcorn in the forest, it was time to get out. They called it the Cheshire Cat, but it looked more like 20% Bintro, 70% Centipede. It dripped thick pink fluid and left greasy smoke trails as it fell to the ground. It sounded the friendliest, but the adults made it known it was not to be played with. Normally they encouraged, if not forced us to interact with the characters, but we always walked away from the Cheshire Cat. It was slow and couldn't leave the forest, but no one wanted to see what happened if it caught up to us. I wish I could remember more about the food. I remember it being old, not out of date, just brands and packs I didn't recognize. I don't remember anything like this, but a lot of people who remembered talk a lot about the nurse's office. The story is always the same. They would hear sounds, No screaming or sawing or breaking of bones. Nothing so overtly sinister, but all day, every day, the sounds of vomit. The door to the room seemed too thin, and the patient just a shade lighter than the surrounding frame, and while, after a bit, a child would ask about the room, only to be told it was the nurse's office. Most of these people never saw inside, just heard the constant retching, and every so often a crackling whisper. I met two people who claimed to have saw inside. One gave me the Lovecraft answer. What he saw inside was so off and unexplainable, he couldn't begin to describe it. The other said she saw a frail old woman in a nurse's uniform standing beside what she described as a neck, as thick as a garbage can attached to a massive mouth. It appeared to be trying to scream or maybe talk, but kept being overcome with a wrecking bouts of vomit. The puke flew unearthly into a 6-foot chasm in the floor. I don't know which one I'm more inclined to believe, but neither really makes me think that this place I spent my childhood was in any way positive. I don't want to overload you with history here, but I do want to clear something up. It wasn't some kind of intermissional horror show constantly. Most of the time, it was just kind of boring. The place had an empty, vacant vibe, and while there were toys, games, and activities, but like the food, they were out of date by a couple of decades, despite looking like they were fresh out of the box. From time to time, there would be a new corridor or hallway that would contain something interesting, an arcade or a toy store, but there almost never was functioning electricity. In any of the new stores, they didn't behave right. What I mean is that the older, more consistent parts were pretty normal, but the newer the space, the stranger things tended to happen. Some rooms would be silent no matter how much noise you tried to make. Others would have unstable, rubbery floors, or a feeling like you were being watched, accompanied by odd scrambling from the ceiling. That's a lot to absorb, so let's move on to more recent matters. My new friend met me at a shabby bar in an even shadier area of town. He had a militia look about him, surplus clothing, square jaw, and short hair, usually a sign for me to turn around. The CT fellows, 100% of the time, think if you follow things far up the chain enough, you find some folks from my tribe. That reminds me, Kip Bernstein is my name. Figured we know each other well enough now to be on the first name basis at this point. But the guy was neither crazy, an anti-Semite, nor screwing with me. I've had a lot of people claim to have video proof of Plae Place, and each and every time I'm either treated to useless footage or a very well done, for lack of better term, horror short. But this time there is no preemptive apologies, no request for money up front, just a guy about 15 years my senior asking me a series of questions that were very similar to the ones I asked him. It went like a bad date, really. We made awkward small talk, had a few drinks, and when the time was right, went to a cheap hotel. He had an old VHS player in a custom steel case, unfolds it into 3 tiers, one containing the player and other two about half a dozen tapes. Handing me the player, he asked, "You know how to set that up?" "For 30 years, I replied, hooking it up to the tube television in the room. He pulls one of the tapes from the steel suitcase. It's in a clean, transparent green case. A handwritten label I can't make out. marks the front. He wears a pair of disposable gloves and wipes the tape down with a smooth gray cloth before inserting it. "Why do you want to see this?" he asked abruptly, hovering his finger over the play button on a needlessly complex-looking remote. "I don't really know. It's a part of my past, I guess. Just want to know how this may have made me, if you get that. I give real thought before I say this. Yeah, I do. I'm not going to give you the rant about how people your age need to worry less about finding yourselves and more about the real world, but I need to set some boundaries. If all you want to do is get together a support group and talk about your feelings, I show you this tape and we part ways. No judgment. But I got beyond looking at this from a scholarly standpoint a long time ago. I like you though. You seem to want to at least find out what's true and what's not. That's rare. Folks like us are just looking for a hook for a shitty horror movie half the time, and Section 8 the other half. So you get to see this tape. You want to go down the rabbit hole with me afterwards. You need to be ready to devote your life to it. I don't have many more years of fighting shape left in me, and I've got no place for a part-time slowing me down." He let a pause hang in the air before he started the tape. "At first, I'm unimpressed. The quality is what I've come to expect, 95% static, and nothing recognizable in between. After his man up speech, I was expecting a bit more. Unfortunately, I got it. After a few seconds, the static clears into as viewable of an image as a VHS has ever produced. My heart drops and I feel a layer of sweat ooze its way out of my skin. There it is, that lobby that wasn't a lobby. It's old, broken, and abandoned, covered in trash and dirt, but I still recognize it. This isn't a fake. This isn't a delusion. This is a flickering tube television playing images I had almost convinced myself could only have came from an overactive child's imagination. The camera moves, panning about, showing me places I recognized, along with new, dilapidated hallways, corridors, and rooms. "How did you—" I began. "I didn't. I paid a lot of money for someone to go in and get me this footage. Next time I go to that hellhole, it's going to be 10 guys deep," he replies. I'm enthralled. It's 2 hours for nothing more than a walk through what could be an abandoned mall. But after all this time staring at proof of this phenomenon that has troubled me every few years of my life, I can't help but draw in. You see, this shouldn't be still standing. I thought that me and some other survivors put a stop to it a long time ago, razed that place to the ground. But someone found an entrance, and it's still repairing itself little by little over the years. I thought that was all it was, and even if it wasn't, I'd be long dead before it was up and running. But keep watching, he says, this as the cameraman makes it to another place I easily recognize, the Sherwood Forest. The real trees are burnt and rotten, the fiberglass ones half melted into pools and formless matter. The ceiling smoke strained with panes missing from the mirrors, but it was clear where it was. As if walking from fog, the Cheshire Cat struggles from the shadows. Whoever is running the camera screams and begins to run as the footage cuts off. Survivors, I say after the shock wears off. You are one of those, of course. Yes, survivors. A lot of people don't remember the worst of what went on there. No idea if that's because of anything those bastards did, or just the human brain blocking shit out. But if you don't remember anything that could be a war crime, you need to realize if you stay with me, death is on the table. And beyond that, I know only a bit more than you. A bit means a lot with this stuff. We very well could simply be slamming our heads against a brick wall, but I've got to try, and I need some help. He waits for an answer, gives me a stare that is expectant and not giving a damn, all at the same time. You can guess the answer I gave. Why? I can't really say. Maybe it's to get to the bottom of this situation. Maybe it's to have something more meaningful than fixing idiots' phones to do with my life. Either way, I'm about to engage in the strangest endeavor of my life. I hope I'm around long enough to update you further. Hey guys, thank you for listening to today's Creepypasta, and I hope you enjoyed. I do have a podcast called The Murder House Radio Show. Check it out, the link will be in the description below. It is a true crime podcast. But if you did enjoy, like, comment, subscribe, and share for more. Hit the bell notification when you subscribe and select all to get all notifications whenever I upload. I upload 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, at least one video a day. Now, all of the long episodes and full series of creepypastas are on all of the major podcasting platforms under the name deadly_zone_narrations, or search up Devin Clarke, DEVINCLARKE. There will also be a link in the description. Also, go follow all the social media accounts that are in the description below. I do have a subreddit called Deadly Narrations. The link will be in the description. Also in the description below are the sources to the creepypasta and the music used, so go check those out. Let me know what creepypasta you would like to hear next, or if you have your own creepypasta you'd like me to narrate, or if you have a creepypasta series you would like to hear, send them to me on any of the social medias in the DMs, or to my email address, which is also in the description, or leave it in the comments. Also in the description below is the author's social medias if they have any listed. But that's it for today's creepypasta. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time in the Deadly Zone, stay deadly and stay spooky.